The message traveled through the silent void of space for nearly 3 years before anyone heard it. A desperate plea, repeated endlessly in the universal mathematical language established for interstellar communication. Help us. Our world is dying. Please respond. The Vidians had sent thousands of such messages in every direction, their once vibrant blue-green planet fading before their eyes. Vidia, a world adorned with spiraling crystal forests and glimmering oceans, was succumbing to an ominous gray. A decade earlier, a series of natural disasters had unearthed dormant elements, releasing them into the atmosphere. What initially seemed like a minor environmental concern had spiraled into a full-scale planetary crisis. In the central communications hub of Vidia's capital, First Speaker Kale sat before the monitoring screens, his eyes dull with exhaustion. Once bright and vivid, his blue skin had taken on a grayish hue, the first physical sign of atmospheric poisoning that afflicted his people. "Any responses today?" Kale asked, though his tone betrayed little expectation. The communications officer shook her head solemnly. "Nothing new. The Regulan Confederation acknowledged our message last month but stated they do not interfere with natural evolutionary processes." Kale's thin shoulders sagged. "And the Zthians?" "They asked if we had any valuable minerals to trade for aid. When I sent them our resource reports, they dismissed us, said the potential profit margin wasn't worth the expense of intervention." The story was always the same. The advanced species governing the Galactic Council either ignored their pleas or evaluated them through the cold lens of profit and loss. The Vidians had nothing deemed valuable enough to barter for their survival. "Keep broadcasting," Kale said softly. "Someone must care." Nearly 270 million kilometers away, on the third planet of a yellow star nestled in a quiet spiral arm of the galaxy, Dr. Anna Foster leaned forward in her chair. Her eyes were fixed on the screen displaying data from Earth's deep space listening array. A distinctive pattern had emerged, something unlike anything she'd encountered before. "Director Banks," she called out urgently. "I think I've found something." Over at her station in the bustling monitoring room of the United Earth Alliance Space Communications Center, Dr. Anna Foster gestured for Director Banks to join her. "What have you got?" Banks asked, weaving through the maze of consoles and staff. "A repeating mathematical sequence," Anna said, her voice tinged with urgency. "Definitely artificial. Definitely non-human." Her fingers danced across the holographic interface. "The signal's weak but consistent. It's been repeating for—" She paused, running calculations. "Wait. Based on the decay pattern, this message has been transmitting for almost 3 years." Banks leaned in closer. "Can you decode it?" "It's using fundamental mathematical principles as a framework. Clever approach." Anna worked quickly, her face illuminated by the soft glow of the hologram. After several tense moments, she looked up, her eyes wide. "It's a distress call, sir. Someone out there is asking for help." Within 24 hours, the discovery had reached the upper echelons of the United Earth Alliance, UEA government. Over the past decade, humanity's leap into faster-than-light communication technology had allowed them to detect numerous alien signals. Most, however, turned out to be automated beacons or commercial chatter between established interstellar civilizations. This message, however, was different, a direct, urgent plea for assistance. In the main conference room of the UEA headquarters in Geneva, 12 officials sat around a circular table, deliberating the next steps. "We don't even know who they are," argued Defense Secretary Williams. "For all we know, this could be a trap." "The message has been broadcasting continuously for 3 years," countered Dr. Foster. "If it's a trap, it's the most patient and elaborate one I've ever seen." President Lin drummed her fingers on the table, her face contemplative. "What about the other spacefaring civilizations? Why hasn't anyone else responded?" Director Banks shrugged. "Unknown. But based on the alien communications we've intercepted over the years, the major powers in this region of the galaxy are pragmatic in their dealings with less advanced species. You mean they don't help unless there's profit involved? Admiral Jackson said flatly. Essentially, yes, Banks confirmed. President Lin's expression grew resolute. Well, that's not how we operate. Prepare a response message and start outfitting the U.S. Mercy for a humanitarian mission. 3 days later, Captain James Reed stood on the bridge of the Mercy, Earth's largest and most advanced vessel, designed specifically for disaster relief and humanitarian aid. At 42, Reed was a seasoned officer who had dedicated his career to missions that prioritized life and hope over conquest and profit. As he gazed out at the vast expanse of stars, he knew this mission would test every principle he believed in. Leading rescue operations across Earth and the Sol system had prepared Captain James Reed for countless crises. But this mission was different. It marked humanity's first step beyond their solar borders. Standing on the bridge of the UES Mercy, Reed surveyed the bustling crew, each focused on their task. "Final systems check complete, Captain," reported First Officer Lisa Parker. "All departments are ready for departure." Reed nodded. Around him, the Mercy's crew, a mix of 500 personnel, including environmental scientists, medical teams, engineers, and diplomats, moved with practiced precision. None had ever encountered an alien before, but each was an expert in crisis management. Their shared goal: to answer a call for help from a species they knew nothing about. "Send a message to UEA Command," Reed ordered. "The Mercy is prepared to depart on Earth's first interstellar humanitarian mission." As the ship's systems hummed in preparation for faster-than-light, FTL, travel, Reed's thoughts drifted to the message that had reached them after years of travel across the cosmos. The Vidians had called for help, not knowing if anyone would answer. "Commencing FTL sequence," announced the navigator. In the moments before the Mercy disappeared into the void, Reed wondered about the beings they would encounter. What kind of people would they find on Vidia? Was humanity ready to engage with a wider galaxy? Yet one truth remained clear to him. When someone called for help, you answered. That, to him, was the core of what it meant to be human. The Mercy vanished in a flash of light, beginning its 6-month journey to Vidia. On Vidia, First Speaker Kale sat despondently in his chamber. The atmospheric degradation had worsened. Children, their future, were succumbing to respiratory failure, their fragile bodies unable to withstand the poisoned air. Temporary filters were failing, and scientists estimated less than 2 years before Vidia would become uninhabitable. Hope was dwindling. The chamber door burst open. Kale barely looked up, expecting more bad news. "First Speaker," the communications officer said breathlessly, her blue skin glowing with an intensity that almost hurt to see, a sign of extreme emotion. "We've received a response," Kale blinked, too weary to believe. "Who?" he asked, voice trembling with hesitant hope. "An unknown species," she replied. "They call themselves humans." "Humans?" Kale repeated, unfamiliar with the word. "They're sending a ship," the officer said, her voice breaking with emotion. "Without negotiation, without demands. Their message states they've received our distress call and are bringing aid. They've asked for details about our situation to prepare assistance." Kale's breath hitched. After years of desperation and silence, someone had answered. "Send them everything they need," he instructed, his voice firm. "And prepare our people. We must be ready to meet these humans." For the first time in years, the crushing weight on his shoulders felt lighter. Someone cared. Someone was coming. Neither the Vidians nor the humans realized the significance of this act. It wasn't just a rescue, it was the beginning of a seismic shift in galactic power dynamics. Unlike the pragmatic, self-serving powers of the Galactic Council, humanity had responded with empathy and action. atmospheric masks, their delicate features partially obscured by devices that hissed softly with each breath. The masks were a stark reminder of the dire situation their world faced. Captain James Reed adjusted his environmental suit and stepped off the shuttle ramp, flanked by his team, a diplomat, a medical officer, and an engineer, all chosen for this critical first contact. The leader of the Vidian group stepped forward. Their blue-green skin, faded and dull, a clear contrast to the healthy radiance Reed had seen in their initial data. They inclined their heads slightly, a gesture the humans had learned was a Vidian sign of greeting. "I am First Speaker Kale," the alien said through the translator device, their voice melodic but tinged with weariness. "On behalf of Vidia, we welcome you and thank you for answering our call." Reed returned the gesture, hoping to convey both respect and reassurance. "I am Captain James Reed of the United Earth Alliance vessel Mercy. We come in peace and with the intent to help. We've studied the information you sent, but seeing the state of your planet in person underscores the urgency. We're here to do everything we can." Kale's almond-shaped eyes shimmered, not with tears. Vidians didn't cry, but with an emotion Reed guessed was a mixture of gratitude and hope. "You must forgive us if we seem overwhelmed. We had begun to believe no one would come." Reed offered a small, reassuring smile. "That's why we're here. Can you show us where to begin? Our teams are ready to assist." Kale nodded, gesturing toward a nearby building that appeared to be a central facility. "We've prepared data and access to our research centers. Your scientists and engineers are welcome to collaborate with ours. Our most immediate concern is stabilizing the atmosphere. The poisoning is spreading faster than we can contain it." As the group moved toward the facility, Reed took in the surroundings. The spiraling buildings, though still striking, bore signs of neglect. Surfaces dulled by the gray haze and faint cracks in their crystalline forms. The air, while breathable for humans in short doses, carried a metallic tang that hinted at its toxicity. Inside the facility, the team was greeted by more Vidians, many of whom seemed physically weakened. Despite their condition, they exuded a quiet determination. Workstations filled the room, with holographic displays projecting complex environmental data. It was clear that the Vidians had fought tirelessly to save their world, even as their resources dwindled. Dr. Tom Wells, the Mercy's environmental scientist, immediately began discussing atmospheric stabilization techniques with his Vidian counterparts. The medical officer, Dr. Eliza Monroe, requested access to their hospitals to assess the human team's ability to assist with treating the afflicted. As Reed observed the exchange, he felt the weight of the moment. This wasn't just about saving Vidia. It was about proving that humanity's values, compassion, cooperation, and the willingness to help without self-interest, could resonate in a galaxy that often seemed to operate on colder principles. Kale turned to Reed. "Your arrival has brought hope to a people who had nearly lost it. We are grateful beyond words. Galaxy, it is not. Acts of pure altruism are rare among the spacefaring powers. Your response, it is extraordinary." Captain Reed's jaw tightened. "It shouldn't be extraordinary, it should be the standard. We hope to set a new precedent for how civilizations interact in times of crisis." Dr. Tom Wells, engrossed in the data projections, spoke up. "First Speaker Kale and Chief Scientist Tella, your atmospheric contamination is a complex problem, but it's not insurmountable. With the combined expertise of our teams, we might be able to implement large-scale filtering technologies and introduce counteracting compounds to stabilize the air composition." Tella's translucent skin seemed to brighten slightly. A Vidian, sign of cautious hope. "Our scientists have theorized similar solutions, but lack the resources and infrastructure to execute them on the necessary scale. We brought advanced equipment and materials for this exact scenario," Dr. Wells reassured. We'll need to conduct a thorough environmental assessment and establish testing sites as soon as possible. Maria Diaz, the diplomatic officer, shifted, her focus to first speaker Kale. We also brought medical teams who can help treat the symptoms of atmospheric poisoning in your people. Stabilizing health conditions is critical to keeping your population strong enough to endure the recovery process. Kale nodded slowly. We have isolated medical facilities where the most vulnerable of our people are cared for. I will ensure your teams have access. As they walked further into the meeting chamber, Defense Minister Gerald, whose bitterness had been evident earlier, addressed Reed directly. You must understand, Captain, that even among our own people, there has been debate about whether seeking outside help was wise. Many argued that it would only lead to exploitation or humiliation. Reed met Gerald's gaze with a steady resolve. We aren't here to exploit or humiliate. We're here to save lives and stabilize your planet. Nothing more, nothing less. Gerald's expression softened slightly, though skepticism lingered. If that is true, then you are unlike any species we have encountered. The conversation was interrupted by the arrival of several Vidian children, led by a caretaker. Their wide eyes, dulled from exposure to the poisoned air, scanned the human visitors with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. Reed couldn't ignore the gray patches marring their skin, visible signs of the suffering that had driven the Vidians to send their desperate call. One of the children, emboldened by curiosity, stepped closer and tugged gently at Tella's arm. Are they really here to help us? The child asked in the musical Vidian language. Tella knelt and replied softly, Yes, they are. They came because we asked, and they care. The child looked up at Reed, their gaze filled with a mixture of wonder and fragility. Reed knelt to meet their gaze. We are here to help, little one, and we won't stop until your world is safe again. Kale observed the interaction with a glimmer of renewed hope. Turning to his fellow leaders, he said, Let us begin the work. For the first time in a long while, I believe we may have a future. An alert sounded throughout the command center. Vidian communication officers quickly moved to their stations, their hands gliding over glowing control panels. Kale turned to one of the officers, his expression shifting to concern. What is it? He asked. The officer hesitated, then reported, A Regulan Confederation vessel has entered our system, first speaker. They are broadcasting a message on all channels. Reed's jaw tightened as he exchanged a glance with his first officer, Lisa Parker, who had accompanied him to the command center. Let's hear it, Reed said calmly. The officer activated the transmission, and a cold, metallic voice filled the room. This is Admiral Vorath of the Regulan Confederation. Vidian leadership is hereby advised to cease unauthorized external interventions in your planetary affairs. Such actions disrupt the natural order and violate galactic norms. Withdraw. All foreign personnel and technology immediately or face consequences. The room fell silent, the weight of the threat pressing down on everyone present. Kale turned to Reed, his large eyes wide with worry. Captain, I feared this would happen. The Regulans do not tolerate what they perceive as interference, even in matters of survival. Reed crossed his arms, his expression resolute. First speaker, my orders were clear. Assist your people in addressing this crisis. We're not backing down because of a bully waving their power around. Humanity doesn't stand by while people suffer. Before Kale could respond, the Regulan transmission resumed. You have 48 hours to comply. Failure to do so will be met with force. Kale's skin darkened in a ripple of fear, but Reed remained calm. First speaker, Reed said firmly, the Mercy is equipped for humanitarian missions, not combat, but we won't abandon you. I'll contact Earth and notify the UEA of this situation. The Regulans need to understand that humanity won't be intimidated. Kale hesitated, then nodded. Your courage gives us strength, Captain. But please, tread carefully. The Regulans are powerful and ruthless. Reed stepped aside, activating his communicator. Lisa, relay the Regulan threat to the Mercy. Patch it directly to Earth and request a response from UEA Command. Make it clear that we'll hold our ground unless ordered otherwise. As Parker relayed the message, Dr. Wells approached Reed. Captain, we need more time to solidify the atmospheric progress we've made. If the Regulans attack, it could destroy everything we've done. Reed placed a hand on Wells's shoulder. We'll buy you that time, Doctor. Keep focusing on the mission. Turning back to Cale, Reed said, we need to present a united front. The Regulans thrive on fear and division. Let them see that we're committed to saving Vidia and that your people won't be bullied into despair. Cale straightened, drawing strength from Reed's determination. You are unlike any ally we could have imagined, Captain. Together we will face whatever comes. As the minutes ticked down toward the Regulan deadline, the Mercy's crew and the Vidians worked tirelessly, a joint effort fueled by shared hope and resilience. Reed knew that the stakes were far greater than Vidia itself. This was a test of humanity's place in the galaxy and the principles they stood for. And he was determined not to fail. Allies. Admiral Patel's expression remained composed. First speaker, we understand your concerns. The United Earth Alliance does not seek conflict, but we will not be intimidated into abandoning our principles. Our mission is to help your people, and we will defend that mission if necessary. Reed nodded in agreement. The Vidians called for help, and humanity answered. The Regulans may be powerful, but they are not infallible. Our presence here is not just about Vidia. It's about showing that compassion and cooperation can challenge the status quo. Cale looked between the two humans, his expression a mix of fear and hope. Your resolve is remarkable, but I must warn you, the Regulans are known for their ruthlessness. They may test your determination. Patel met his gaze firmly. Let them test us. Humanity does not yield to bullies, no matter how advanced they may be. The standoff. As the days passed, the standoff between the UEA and Regulan forces grew increasingly tense. While the Regulans made no overtly hostile moves, their continued presence was a constant reminder of the stakes. Meanwhile, the combined efforts of the UEA ships and Vidian scientists began to show measurable progress. The atmospheric processors were clearing larger swaths of air, and for the first time in years, patches of blue sky were visible above Vidia's major cities. However, tensions reached a boiling point when a Regulan vessel deployed a probe that entered Vidian airspace without authorization. The probe approached one of the atmospheric processors, triggering an alert on the Mercy. Commander Alvarez, Reed said sharply, analyze the probe's trajectory. Is it a threat? Alvarez scanned the data. It appears to be conducting surveillance on the processor, but it's not armed. Reed frowned. Transmit a warning to the Regulans. Let them know their probe has violated Vidian sovereignty. A tense silence followed as the warning was sent. Moments later, Vex appeared on the communication screen, his reptilian features etched with disdain. Your warnings are irrelevant, Captain Reed, Vex said. The Vidians forfeited sovereignty when they proved incapable of managing their own planet. We are merely ensuring that your interference does not destabilize the region further. Reed's voice was firm. You don't get to decide the fate of a sovereign species, High Commander. Withdraw your probe immediately, or we will escort it out. Vex's eyes narrowed. Do so at your peril, Captain. Reed turned to Alvarez. Deploy a drone to intercept the probe. Non-lethal measures only. Make it clear we mean business. The Mercy's drone approached the Regulan probe, emitting a pulse that forced it to shut down its systems. The probe floated harmlessly as the drone towed it away from the atmospheric processor. Vex's image reappeared on the screen, his scales dark with anger. This is an act of provocation, Captain Reed. The Confederation does not tolerate such insolence. And humanity does not tolerate the violation of sovereignty, Reed countered. If you escalate, we will respond in kind. A turning point. As the standoff continued, a surprising development occurred. Several neutral galactic observers, including representatives from smaller, non-aligned civilizations, began arriving in the Vidian system. Drawn by the unprecedented human intervention, they watched the unfolding events with great interest. One such representative, Ambassador Laren of the Tarvian League, approached Admiral Patel and First Speaker Kale. "Your actions here are unusual," Laren said, addressing Reed and Patel. "Most species avoid direct involvement in such crises. You risk much by standing against the Regulans." Patel replied evenly, "We risk much because the stakes are worth it. A galaxy where compassion is seen as weakness is one we refuse to accept." Ambassador Laren considered this, her crystalline eyes reflecting the light. "Perhaps the galaxy needs more of your kind. If humanity's actions succeed here, it could inspire others to question the status quo." As the observers documented humanity's efforts and the resilience of the Vidians, whispers of support began spreading among less powerful civilizations. For the first time in centuries, the dominance of the galactic powers faced a credible challenge, not through warfare, but through a simple act of aid. The stage was set for a new era in the galaxy, one where humanity's values of compassion and solidarity might begin to reshape the interstellar order. Admiral Patel, a stern woman in her 60s with steel-gray hair, smiled slightly. "First Speaker, humanity has spent its entire history dealing with bullies who think might makes right. We're quite experienced at standing our ground." The meeting was interrupted when a junior officer burst in. "Admiral, Captain, the Regulans are on the move, but not toward us. 6 more of their vessels have entered the system, and they're deploying some kind of orbital platform above Vidia. Everyone!" rushed to the command center. On the main display, they watched as the Regulan ships positioned a massive ring-shaped device in orbit. "Analysis?" demanded Reed. Dr. Wells studied the incoming data. "It appears to be an atmospheric processor, much larger than ours, using more advanced technology." Kale stared in disbelief. "They denied our request for aid for years. Why would they help now?" Admiral Patel laughed dryly. "They're not helping you, First Speaker. They're competing with us." A communication request came through, and High Commander Vex's reptilian face appeared on screen again, his expression smug. "Observe, humans. This is how a proper galactic power addresses a planetary crisis. Our atmospheric purification. Ring will accomplish in days what your primitive devices would take years to achieve." Reed and Patel exchanged glances. Patel nodded slightly, and Reed turned back to the screen. "That's excellent news, High Commander," he said with genuine enthusiasm. "The Vidians need all the help they can get. We welcome your assistance in this humanitarian effort." Vex's smugness faltered, clearly not expecting this response. "This is not a joint operation. You will withdraw your equipment and personnel." "Why?" asked Reed innocently. "Surely the well-being of the Vidians is the priority here. More help means faster results." The Regulan commander seemed momentarily at a loss for words, before cutting the communication. Later, in a private meeting aboard the Mercy, Admiral Patel explained the situation to the human officers and Vidian leaders. "The Regulans don't care about saving your planet," she told Kale bluntly. "They care about being seen as superior to humans. Our willingness to help when they refused makes them look bad, especially to the smaller civilizations they want to keep in line." "So they're only helping to save face?" asked Tella, the Vidian chief scientist. "Exactly," Patel replied. "But their pride works in your favor. Now they'll feel compelled to prove they can fix your atmosphere better and faster than we can." Duck smiled. "And meanwhile, your people benefit from both technologies working simultaneously." For the first time since the humans had arrived, First Speaker Kale laughed, a sound like crystal wind chimes. "You've accomplished something remarkable," he said. "Not only did you come to our aid when no one else would, but you've somehow shamed the Regulan Confederation into helping as well." As the meeting concluded, Reed looked out the viewport at the planet below. Already the gray haze was noticeably thinner where the human and Regulan processors operated. "Sometimes," he said quietly, "helping others forces everyone to be their better selves." What none of them realized yet was that news of humanity's actions and the Regulans' response was already spreading through subspace communications to other worlds and species across the galaxy, sparking hope in some and concern in others. The galaxy was changing, all because humans took a desperate plea for help seriously. At the planet below, the gray haze was noticeably thinner where the human and Regulan processors operated. "Sometimes," Captain Reed said quietly, "helping others forces everyone to be their better selves." What none of them realized yet was that news of humanity's actions and the Regulan response was already spreading through subspace communications to other worlds and species across the galaxy, sparking hope in some and concern in others. The galaxy was changing, all because humans took a desperate plea for help seriously. After 3 weeks of combined effort, human processors working from the surface and the Regulan purification ring operating from orbit, the toxic gray haze had reduced by nearly 40%. In some areas, clear blue sky was visible for the first time in years. Captain Reed stood with First Speaker Kale on the observation deck of one of the Vidian crystal spires, looking out over the capital city below. Vidian children played in a park without breathing masks, their skin showing the healthy blue-green color that had been rare when humans first arrived. "The medical teams report a 60% decrease in respiratory distress cases," Reed said. "Dr. Wells believes the air will be completely safe within another month." Kale's large eyes glistened with emotion. "My people had lost hope, Captain. You not only brought us aid, but forced the Regulans to help as well. It is beyond what we could have imagined." Their moment of peace was interrupted when Reed's communication device chimed urgently. "Captain, this is the Armstrong. We have a situation. 23 vessels have just entered the system." Reed's expression tightened. "Regulan reinforcements?" "Negative, sir. Mixed fleet vessels identified from the Zathian Empire, the Mox Collective, and at least 4 other major powers from the Galactic Council." Reed exchanged a concerned look with Kale. "I'll return to the Mercy immediately." Within the hour, representatives from all the major powers had requested a meeting on neutral ground. The Vidians offered their Grand Assembly Hall, a magnificent structure where the entire ceiling and walls were composed of living crystal that shifted colors with the mood of the room. Reed and Admiral Patel entered side by side, accompanied by Diplomatic Officer Maria Diaz. The circular hall contained 7 separate delegation areas. The Regulans were already present, High Commander Vex at their center. The other 5 sections held representatives from major galactic powers, all species that had either ignored or rejected Vidia's pleas for help. The 7th section held the Vidian leadership, with First Speaker Kale standing proudly at their center. A tall, elegant being with 4 arms and golden skin stepped into the center of the room. "This emergency session of the Galactic Council Regional Representatives is now convened," the being announced. "I am Counselor Zinn of the Mox Collective, acting as neutral facilitator." The golden being turned toward the human delegation. "The matter before us concerns the unauthorized intervention of a non-council species in the internal affairs of a developing world. Captain Reed, Admiral Patel, you stand accused of violating the non-interference protocols that have maintained galactic peace for 2,000 years. Admiral Patel stepped forward. "Counselor, with respect, Earth is not a signatory to these protocols. We were invited here by the legitimate government of Vidia in response to a direct request for aid." High Commander Vex hissed angrily. "Their invitation is irrelevant. The protocols exist to prevent developing species from becoming dependent on advanced civilizations. Natural selection must be allowed to proceed. Maria Diaz spoke up, her diplomatic training evident in her measured tone. Maria Diaz spoke in a measured tone. May I ask a question, Counselor? How exactly is a planetary environmental crisis a matter of natural selection? The Vidians didn't create this problem. It was caused by natural geological events. A representative from the Zdian Empire, a being with metallic blue skin and cybernetic enhancements, responded coolly, all planetary species face challenges. Those who overcome such challenges independently prove their worthiness to join. Galactic society. Those who cannot... The being made a dismissive gesture. Reed felt his anger rising but kept his voice calm. So your philosophy is to watch civilizations die when you could easily help them? It is not so simple, said another representative, small and insect-like. If we intervened in every crisis, weaker species would never develop the strength to survive on their own. The galaxy would be filled with dependent, fragile civilizations. First Speaker Kale stepped forward unexpectedly. I request the right to speak. Counselor Zinn nodded and Kale continued, his voice stronger than Reed had ever heard it. For years, my people sent messages begging for help. We did not ask for charity. We offered trade, knowledge, cultural exchange, anything we could. We were willing to work, to learn, to become partners rather than dependent. But you all deemed us unworthy of even a response. Kale pointed toward Reed and Patel. Then humans came. They did not test us or judge us. They simply helped because it was the right thing to do. And now that they have shamed you by showing compassion, you claim they violated your protocols. The room fell silent for a moment before High Commander Vex spoke again. The human interference has disrupted the natural order. If every young species begins to act this way, offering aid to the unworthy, the entire foundation of galactic hierarchy will be threatened. Admiral Patel nodded slowly. Now we reach the truth. This isn't about protocols or non-interference or natural selection. It's about maintaining your power and your hierarchy. She stepped to the center of the room, addressing all the representatives. Let me be clear about humanity's position. We will continue to answer calls for help regardless of your protocols. We will continue to treat other species with dignity and respect regardless of their level of development. And if that disrupts your hierarchy, perhaps it needs disrupting. The room erupted in angry shouts and protests from most of the delegations. Counselor Zinn raised all four arms for silence. Admiral, you must understand the seriousness of this situation. The combined fleets of the Council powers currently in orbit around Vidia outnumber your vessels 20-1. If you persist. In this defiance, we cannot guarantee your safety. Reed stepped forward to stand beside Patel. Are you threatening us, Counselor? I am stating reality, Captain. The protocols will be enforced. Before Reed could respond, a communication officer rushed into the hall and whispered urgently to Admiral Patel. She listened, then smiled. Counselor Zinn, before you consider any enforcement action, you should check your long-range sensors. The golden being tilted his head curiously, then touched a device on his wrist. His expression changed dramatically. What is the meaning of this? He demanded. Patel's smile widened. When we informed Earth about the situation here, our government reached out to every world that had received and ignored distress calls over the past decade. Turns out there were quite a few. They all had something in common. They weren't deemed worthy of help by the Council powers. She gestured toward the ceiling, indicating the space above. 47 vessels from 18 different worlds have just arrived in this system. None of them are military powers by your standards, but together they formed what they're calling the Mutual Aid Alliance, and they're here to support Earth and Vidia. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Reed stepped forward. You've built a galactic society based on strength, power, and competition, he said quietly. We believe in something different: cooperation, compassion, and mutual aid. You see, helping others. First speaker. Kale stepped forward to stand beside the humans. The Vidians join this mutual aid alliance. We may be recovering, but we will offer what help we can to others in need, High Commander Vex hissed in anger. This is rebellion against the natural order. No, Reed replied calmly. This is evolution, a better way forward. As the council representatives huddled in urgent discussion, Reed turned to Admiral Patel. 47 ships. Earth has been busy. Patel nodded. When word spread about what we were doing here, these other worlds, all previously ignored by the council, reached out. They wanted to be part of something different. Outside the Crystal Hall, the skies of Vidia continued to clear, mirroring the new hope dawning across the galaxy. The old order of the Galactic Council faced its first serious challenge, all because humans had taken a desperate plea for help seriously. 6 months after humans first arrived at Vidia, the planet was transformed. The gray haze had completely disappeared, replaced by clear skies that showcased the natural beauty of the world. The spiraling crystal spires of the cities gleamed in the sunlight, and the famous luminescent forest had begun to recover, glowing softly with blue light at night. But the most dramatic transformation wasn't on Vidia itself. It was happening across this corner of the galaxy. Captain James Reed stood at the window of the newly constructed Mutual Aid Alliance headquarters, built on a small moon orbiting Vidia. Below him, ships from 24 different worlds came and went, their designs as varied as the species that created them. The headquarters itself was a marvel of cooperative engineering, incorporating architectural elements from all member species, including distinctive human touches. Quite a view, isn't it? Said Admiral Patel, joining him at the window. Hard to believe this all started with a single distress call? Reed nodded, and a simple decision to answer it. The door to the observation deck slid open, and first speaker Kale entered. In the months since the confrontation with the Galactic Council, the Vidian leader had become a powerful voice in the new alliance. His once frail form was now healthy, his skin a vibrant blue-green. The representatives are ready for the ceremony, Kale announced. 27 worlds have now formally joined the Mutual Aid Alliance. Together they walk to the Grand Assembly Chamber. Unlike the hierarchical arrangement of the Galactic Council meetings, this room was designed with a circular table where all representatives sat as equals. The walls displayed real-time images from all member worlds, a constant reminder of the diverse civilizations they represented. As they entered, the room fell silent. Leaders from species once dismissed as unworthy by the council powers now stood tall, representing their worlds with pride. Some were still recovering from environmental disasters like Vidia's. Others had faced devastating plagues, resource shortages, or natural catastrophes, all ignored by the powerful civilizations that dominated the galaxy until humans showed them another way. Admiral Patel took her place at the table, with Reed standing behind her as Earth's secondary representative. At the center of the table lay a small data crystal, the formal charter of the Mutual Aid Alliance, containing the principles that would guide their cooperation. Patel began, "Today we formalize what began as a simple act of compassion. When Earth answered Vidia's call for help, we had no idea we were challenging the established order of the galaxy. We were simply doing what came naturally to us, helping those in need." She gestured around the table. "Each of your worlds has experienced the indifference of the powerful. Each of you sent pleas that went unanswered. Today, we ensure that never happens again." A representative from Niara, a world devastated by plague, spoke next, their voice quiet but intense through the translator. "The council powers told us we were too primitive to save, that our deaths would strengthen our species in the long run. Millions died while they watched. Then humans came with medicine and doctors, asking nothing in return except that we help others when we recover. One by one, representatives shared similar stories. Worlds abandoned to their fate by the IA. Council powers, saved by human intervention, and now committed to doing the same for others. When all had spoken, Kale rose to address the assembly. The final provision of our charter faces a crucial vote today: how we will interact with the Galactic Council and its member worlds. The room grew tense. The Council powers had reacted to the alliance with anger and dismissal. Some threatened sanctions or worse against member worlds. Others suddenly offered aid to struggling planets, hoping to prevent them from joining. The Council's recent actions prove they feel threatened, Kale continued. They should, not because we seek conflict, but because we offer an alternative to their philosophy of power and domination. Reed watched the faces around the table. Some showed fear. The Council powers were still militarily superior. Others showed resolve. All had suffered under the old system. Admiral Patel stood again. The proposal before us is simple. We will not isolate ourselves from the Council worlds, nor antagonize them. Instead, we will expand our alliance, offering membership to any world that shares our values, including those currently aligned with the Council. She paused, looking around the table. And most importantly, we will answer any call for help, even from Council worlds. We will show them the strength that comes from compassion, not competition. The vote was unanimous. The Mutual Aid Alliance would stand as an alternative to the Galactic Council, not through military might, but through the power of cooperation and mutual support. As the formal ceremony concluded and representatives broke into smaller groups, Reed was approached by an unexpected visitor. High Commander Vex of the Regulan Confederation stood awkwardly, at the edge of the room, his usual arrogance absent. "Captain Reed," the Regulan said, "I have been sent as an observer." Reed raised an eyebrow. "Observer or spy?" Vex's scales shifted color. A Regulan flush. "The Confederation is reassessing certain policies. Your alliance has caused considerable discussion among our leadership." "Good," Reed replied simply. "I do not understand your species," Vex admitted. "You risk conflict with powerful civilizations to help worlds that can offer you little in return. It seems illogical." Reed considered his response carefully. "Tell me, High Commander, how many allies did the Regulan Confederation have 6 months ago?" 17 major worlds and 43 minor systems, Vex replied promptly. "And how many would actually come to your aid if you were in trouble, not because of treaties or fear, but because they genuinely care about your people?" The Regulan was silent. "That's the difference," Reed said quietly. "Every world in this alliance would help each other, not because it's an obligation, but because it's right. There's strength in that. A kind of strength your Confederation doesn't understand yet." Later that evening, Reed joined Kale on a balcony overlooking Vidia. The first stars were appearing in the clear sky, each one potentially home to worlds that might one day join their alliance. "When we sent that distress call into the darkness," Kale said reflectively, "we hoped for technical assistance, perhaps some environmental equipment. We never imagined it would change the galaxy." Reed smiled. "That's the thing about asking humans for help. We tend to take it very seriously." "Your species is strange," Kale said, but his tone was affectionate. "Most advanced civilizations grow more selfish with power, more protective of their advantages," Reed admitted. "Humans seem to have gone the opposite direction." "Not always," Reed added. "We've had our share of dark chapters, but we've learned that real strength comes from lifting others up, not pushing them down." Below, Vidian city lights began to shine as evening fell. Children who might not have survived without human intervention played in parks under the watchful eyes of parents who had once lost hope. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out on other worlds saved by the new alliance. And in the chambers of the Galactic Council, uncomfortable questions were being asked about the old ways, all because humans took a desperate plea for help seriously. More seriously than anyone could have imagined.